Good morning and welcome to Frank's School. This is the 7th year, 108th day, first video, and it's the final update, the March update of the efforts I've been making toward making this movie Resurrection. Or I've now pretty much decided I'm going to call it Hope. I think I'm going to give it the name Hope. And I say the last, as I explained in the last video, as of April 1st, I'm thinking of that as Bloom Day, in which case I'm going to start taking the brakes off in terms of leaving things looking really rough and let them go. For the purpose of the movie, it's best to have things look really rough at the beginning. I'll come to back to these three things in a moment. Let me first tell you about this. One of the things I did to get ready for this is I looked back through to see where in Frank's School, this YouTube channel, where is all the information? And if you really wanted to know the whole story, I don't know if it would be humanly possible. The playlists is where I put them. Resurrection the movie. There are, I think it's 29 videos there where I go through the sequence of how I came up with this idea, this need and this effort to create a movie, or get someone to create such a movie. Resurrection the movie. It's quite complete. But the better place to start really would be in the playlist The Making of Resurrection, because after about 3 years, I think 2 or 3 years, after having abandoned the effort pretty much, I was at a dead end, stuck in my soup, as this girl said. I started up again, and I called that The Making of Resurrection, where I reset the movie. Wordless movie, don't forget that at any point, a wordless movie. I reset it on the property where I now live. And if you'd start there and could manage to get through that, you'd pretty much understand the whole movie, actually, the plot, everything. It's not quite the same thing as a storyboard, or rather a screenplay, but it's close. Then there's a video, Resurrection Soundtrack Quotes, and I think that there's two videos in that one. I put some music there that I could use that's for Act 1. A year of updates then. Now this is the last one, March. I had started, I think, last April. It might have been May, actually, where I started. Anyway, this will be the last of the updates, and those updates give a little bit more information about how things were going. And in the last, well, I'll tell you that in a minute. And then these videos, 5th year, 111th day, first video, and then the second video of that day, and then the 6th year, 154th day, second video of 2. This one is about an artist, a wonderful artist named, local artist, but deserves to be international and famous, William Snyder. And this, I can't remember offhand what it is. Anyway, there's the whole story with this video. There you've got it. And I actually went back through and watched all of those. I watched this within the last month. And then I watched the year of updates. I watched the year of updates as well. And I did that partially because I knew she was coming. Now, let me tell you about developments here. First of all, Greta Thunberg, she has, since I began all this, she has come to the forefront. Now, basically, anyone that pays attention to news has little excuse for not knowing who Greta Thunberg is. And so that environmental effort and the push that she's giving to youth, and youth are accepting it worldwide. She now is not quite a household word, but almost. Of the last week, the stock market basically crashed. Coronavirus, you might blame it on coronavirus if you want, but a lot of people could see that this was coming anyway. It's just like the things piled up together, and it has crashed currently. And people, of course, have noticed that, because that touches their pocketbook. And now, really, almost for the first time, I see that people are waking up to, whoa, things are going on. Now, they blame it on the coronavirus, and they're focused on that particular thing. But, you know, the concept of schools closing, you know, of not being able to go to big concerts and sporting events, and cities being, what's the word for it? Quarantined, people contain. I mean, it's really shocking to a lot of people. Not so much to me. Well, anyway, those things are new. Now, the other thing that's new is yesterday I had a visit from a young woman. She and I had only met her once, and she was going to come the day before, but the weather was just impossible. She was going to come with a friend, and I say because of that visit, the odds of this some form of this movie being made this year are not less than 1%. No, not anymore. I don't know what they are, but it became apparent that actually it could be made. Certainly, a form of storyboard could be made with stills. It turns out that this young woman has an extremely talented daughter who can draw extremely well, and that's kind of what got the ball rolling. But anyway, she's pretty, she's young, she's energetic. She's fun to be with, really. She's a photographer and an artist. And there's no mistaking that she's an artist. You can tell that almost immediately. She's full of energy. And she has many friends. She lives quite near here in a nearby city. She has many friends online. But many of those friends are also my friends, because she knows the community here in Bedford well, and her artistness has drawn her toward many of the people that I know, former students and people that I know. Anyway, she was here, and she was interested, and we spent some time looking around, not as much time as we would have liked, and that has changed things. It's conceivable, together with her friends and her energy, something could actually break loose and be done. We'll have to see. It's really too new to say. The other thing I wanted to say, and the last, is that when she was here, one of the things I forgot to mention to her, I had once, but I didn't go into it, is I said, I have a platform available to get some form of this movie out there. Remember, it's wordless, and it's wordless because it's to leap right across the language barrier. Not be limited to any given language, English, German, French, Chinese, not limited to any Hindi, but going straight to the language of what people do with their bodies and their hands, and what you see, not what you read, or not the words that you hear. And that platform, which I have to try to figure out how can I actually go about using it. I'm a moderator on a page or a site called Sustainable Living International. And that site has now got over 12,000 members. And every day I approve like 10 more members. We don't just let anybody join. The moderator group is actually quite small. But one of the rules there is you don't put stuff on to make money. You don't use it as a way to advertise, which I kind of have to get around, because if I use that to get the word out about this movie, it would not be to make money, but nonetheless it'd be a sort of a self-promotion. I'll have to get around it. But why it's so interesting to me is, of these 12,000, or it's more than that now, members, for many of them, English is not their foreign language, their native language. International, that word international was key. So many of these people could give input on something that was not, they all have to speak English or write English in some form, because it's the lingua franca of the site. But you can see by the various groups that they're in that many of them simply don't usually use English, and so they would be a test audience for this visual experience. At the moment, I would guess that it's quite possible that we can come up with not a drawn, but a photographed storyboard of the movie. And maybe even a version of the movie, because some of her friends and some of my friends have cameras, drones even. All right, well, I guess that concludes my updates, but if something big happens, I'll let you know. And Oh, one other thing. I created a new Facebook page called Frank's School. And on Frank's School, starting April 1st, I'm going to daily put down a kind of a menu of the day to say, here's what's going on. Visitors welcome, 10:30 in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon when I'm free of my standard chores. And visitors would be welcome. And I'll give a menu of the day to show, well, what do I intend to be doing that day. It's already on there, but it's limited right now. Frank's School, the Facebook page. Bye for now.